Well, what do you have to say about this episode?
Maybe you should say first.
I am not as, critical of things as you are. So
What?
I would say it was an alright episode. It was very slow at first, very slow burn, but really ramped up quickly at the last 10 minutes.
5 minutes were great.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that and we'll kind of go in depth in what happened in the episode, kind of our thoughts, theories, stuff like that. And just to introduce ourselves, that we're two lore geeks. We love covering stuff, fantasy, sci-fi, TV shows, movies, Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, stuff like that. So if it's something that interests you and you like to hear us talk about it, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you know when our videos go live. We'll jump right into episode 8 of season 2 of Severance.
I think it sucked. I was just sitting there, and it was hard to get through it. It was hard to get through it at first. Like, yeah, the last few minutes were great, but it was really hard to get through it, and it felt so unnecessary to me. Like, last week's episode was all about Gemma, and that was fantastic because we had not seen Gemma really as herself almost at all. Only like a couple of flashbacks. We'd seen Miss Casey, but we hadn't really seen her. So getting to know kind of like what had happened with her and Mark before, and then what was going on with her in current day was really good, and it was a really good, really strong episode. And so to go from that to complete crap, which is what I think this one was, for the most part. Like, yes, the last few minutes were really good, but I really feel like they could have made her whole backstory and what happened into like 15 minutes, and then use the other 30 minutes to let us know what's going on with everybody else, because the rest of it really felt like filler to me. And maybe I just still have a touch of PTSD from House of the Dragon.
Why do we still have filler in the age
Why
of
do we
streaming?
still have filler on 10 episode seasons?
It's not like the network bought 20 episodes and
no. If you have a show that has like 27 episodes, like fine, I'm not gonna fault you for having a couple of filler episodes, but we're talking 10, and things are really ramping up, and this one just fell really flat. I don't think we needed a whole episode about her. Mm-hmm. There were a couple of interesting tidbits in there, and I do think that stuff was needed, but it also could have been condensed to 15 minutes, 20 if I'm being generous.
It's really stretched out.
It was really stretched out. So, do you want to talk about?
Yeah, we'll go right into the episode. Pretty much, I think I called it whenever I said, "Is that Cobel's car?" Mm-hmm. At the start there.
We did in the very beginning because we hadn't seen her in a while. Yeah,
we were wondering where she was because she hasn't been around for a few episodes, except for like the first part. So. She's driving around. She's driving to this place. What's it called?
Salt's Neck.
Salt's Neck. It's a very cold winter. I think this whole region is just cold. So
it looks like coastal, like eastern Canada. I don't know where it's supposed to be.
So she drives up, and there's a little diner there that she stops at. She meets up with either the owner or the manager or something of the diner place, the cafe, and
I think he's just selling drugs.
He's selling stuff to get high on.
Yeah.
In the back probably, but
her old chum
is what they said. But then he said something about child labor.
What we see in this is like this really dilapidated town, mm-hmm. and clearly it had once at some point been thriving due to Lumen, and then kind of ruined. And we did get confirmation of that later in the episode too, but the child labor bit was super interesting because we've already seen that with Miss Huang. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, they've been doing this for a while. And if you think about it, because Harmony Cobel is not young, mm-hmm. so they've been doing this stuff for a while, and we'll get into more later.
Longer than 20 years, like Bert said.
Yeah, because there's a huge revelation at the end. But she's you can get back into it.
Well, I think also when she was driving up or driving somewhere in town, we saw old paint that had the logo, the Lumen logo, and then
and he's clearly, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but he's clearly like not a fan of Lumen, and it seems like most of the town is like pretty pissed,
very jaded about Lumen coming into their town,
about everything that happened and then leaving and all of that. But
so he takes off to meet up with Cobel, and they meet up at the factory, which also has the Logo Industries logo on it. Yeah, Logo Industries, or Lumen Industries. And so they're meeting up, talking about that she has to go to someone named Sissy's.
Well, we find out it's her aunt.
It's her aunt. So she doesn't want to take her own car because I guess she'll be recognized.
She thinks they're watching.
Yeah, she thinks they're watching. So she gets in the back of his truck,
which seemed cold again.
Yeah, she's in like a little potato sack or something. And so they take a drive to Sissy's house, and it's also very remote. Doesn't look like there was any electricity or anything like that. So they get there. She goes up to the door, and Sissy doesn't really greet them. She tells them to leave.
And Sissy, unlike the rest of the town, is like this die-hard cultist.
Yeah, cultist.
No,
not the hater.
Sissy, yeah. And we kind of find that out with these interactions, is that Cobel's mother was very anti-Lumen. She became the way she was because of her aunt. So that's really interesting. And then I guess she did so well that they thought she should be in school for this, and these things were interesting. It was interesting to see these little back pieces about her, but it was just so dragged out. It could have been done quicker.
Yeah, way quicker.
There were pieces that were interesting.
Yeah, she's looking for the key to her mom's room, which she eventually finds. This was a really weird scene, but she gets into the room.
Honestly, pretty unnecessary.
And the bed is there, everything's there. She has like a little pipe thing that she sticks to the ventilator, I don't know what it was, but some kind of breathing thing.
They mentioned her mom being, intubated.
Yeah.
I don't know. And she's there for a while, and finally he comes up and gets her and says they gotta leave because it's cold.
They get high.
That first, but it was just like.
Yeah, and then as they're leaving, they still haven't found what they're looking for, and so she goes into the cellar and starts looking around there, finds some old stuff that they've kept away, and then stumbles upon a head. She cracks it open, the bottom of it with a screwdriver or something, and she finds some documents, which are
drawings.
Some old drawings, very important. Then she goes back into the house with Sissy and mentions that they were hers.
That all of this stuff, so the severance procedure, the overtime,
all the designs.
I don't know if it was everything, but like a lot of the big pieces were hers. They were her ideas, and she never said anything because they were like, "Oh, we have to share this with it." They're weird.
Yeah, Kier's knowledge says that they have to share.
My notes.
Oh no!
My notes.
The notes are gone. We don't know what we're doing.
Jame
Egan
took credit
for it.
So that was where the episode actually started to be interesting.
So the Eagans really didn't come up with the whole Severance design. It was actually Cobel who came up with it. So that was a very interesting revelation.
But can we talk about that for a second? When we think of Cobel, we think of her as being this like middle management, like kind of weird, very into the whole culty thing. I take some issue with her being a brilliant scientist because there's nothing, and I mean nothing.
They wiped her mind.
Well, how did they? If they wiped her mind, then how did she know to go look for her drawings, her mock-ups?
It came back. She reintegrated. Oh, that's an interesting theory, isn't it? So what about the one lady that's helping Mark?
And she knows who
she is. Maybe she helped her reintegrate. And maybe it didn't go so well, and so
maybe hopefully we find out something the next episode. I'm interested to see what they do with it. I really am, and I'm gonna give that part of it. I think the episode was stupid, and there was.
Oh, but let's end it. The episode ended with so Devin was calling Cobel the entire time, And so she finally answers. She asks to speak to Mark, and Mark
says, "Tell me everything."
Yeah, tell me everything. That's where it ends.
So maybe it was good that Devon's calling her. Maybe it's not good. We don't really know yet. But just the more that I think about it, the more like just her as this brilliant scientist, I'm like, it doesn't make sense. Yes, I understand that they didn't want her to have credit for it and everything, but it seems like they could have had her.
But she went to school, so
yeah, but it
maybe
seems
that's
like
where
they
she
could
got
have had
her
her
education.
doing more. Yes, that's fine. But why hasn't she been doing big things since then? Why has she been like the...
Because the Eagans have kept her down and locked where she is.
Was she... Nothing about the way that she has acted, though, screams like she's the one who orchestrated all this. She's this genius. I just...
That's why they want to keep her shut up.
I hope they explain that, because I don't know if I like it. I don't know. It's... Because it's kind of like, oh... It was a big shock, which I get doing something for shock value, but at the same time, it has to make sense. So I hope that they explain it, and I think that they can. I think it can be done. I'm not going to be as critical about that as I am about this being a filler episode. I'm going to be super critical about this being a filler episode because I think it was so unnecessary.
It's going to end just like House of the Dragon Season 2. Build up for nothing.
We're going to build up, and then you're going to expect like a big battle at the end, and then there's nothing.
No.
Instead...
There's nothing.
We are still a little salty about... Well, I'm a lot.
Well, we'll do videos on that.
We're going to do videos on that because...
But anyway, so overall this episode, what would you give it out of 10?
2.
2?
3, maybe.
I would say maybe a 6 for me.
I'm going to give it a... you know what? I'm going to give it a 3 because I think the last... I'm going to be really nice. I'm going to be really nice. I'm going to give it a 4 because I think the last 10 minutes were really interesting. And I think that if the rest of the episode could have been even half that good, then it would have been a decent episode. The problem is it wasn't. They could have, like, we haven't seen, you know, Helly or, like, that's how long, Dylan, that's how long it's been since we've seen them. I don't even know their names. We haven't seen them in...
And how does Bert fit in all this? So that's going to be...
And how are we going to possibly tie that up? I mean, maybe we don't find out everything in season 2. That's fine. There's going to be, you know...
I think there's 4 seasons.
Planned?
Yeah. 4 seasons planned, I believe. So, obviously, everything's not going to be wrapped up at this season, but hopefully we'll get at least some questions answered like we did. Well, we got this answered of who came up with Severance, but now we have questioned how did she get to this point?
And how did she get to where she is from there? I'm just hoping that this episode is an indicator of this starting to go downhill.
Well, hopefully Ben Stiller can actually answer the questions that he's introduced, unlike J.J. Abrams, just introducing mystery for no payoff.
No reason.
No payoff either.
Yeah. So I think I was just disappointed in it. I was excited to see it, and when I started watching it, I thought this is boring. That's what I was thinking the first, like, however long of the show. I was like, this is so boring. This show should not... Yes, you see them doing these really mundane tasks, but it's not boring because you're like, why are they doing that? Why? Like, having her drive around the icy countryside, it was boring. It was boring. And you could disagree with me. I don't care.
That's why I make these videos.
I don't care. I'm sure there will be people... I'm sure there will be people that liked it to some extent, but I'm just going to guess that this is going to be most people's least favorite
I like
episode.
backstory, but I don't like unnecessary backstory. Unnecessarily long.
Unnecessarily long and easily the worst episode so far this season. Easily.
Even worse than the whole team building thing?
The team building thing was actually pretty bad. But yes, this was worse because at least that was interesting.
Yeah.
At least that was
weird.
Oh, it was weird, but it was interesting.
So 4 out of 10, 6 out of 10.
You're so
It's
generous
very
with
mid,
your rating.
Very mid episode. So we'll have to see, I guess, what happens next week. Of course, we'll cover it. Anything that comes out about it, we'll have our theories and breakdowns, stuff like that. So if you enjoyed our rambling, if you disagree, if you agree,
our ranting about this episode,
be sure to comment below, let us know, and also be sure to like this video and subscribe for more videos like this. If you're interested in stuff that we talk about, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next video.
which is hopefully better.
So thanks for watching.